Okay, welcome everybody to our chance to get to know the new library catalog. I'm Stacy with the Iowa City Public Library, and I'm joined by Alyssa, who's our web developer and one of the people who worked on the improvements to our catalog. It was Alyssa, Todd, and Brent at the library that created our catalog, which will be able to continually improve and adapt to our community's needs. Most libraries do not have a custom-made catalog. They're just sort of stuck at the whims of what the companies provide. And so it's very special for us to be able to make our own customizations and have the power to make changes when we want to. So to that end, since this was made in the library, if you have any comments from finding a bug to offering suggestions for improvements, we hope that you'll share your feedback with us, and we'll show you where you can do that in the new catalog as well. Okay, so let's get started, and I will show you where to find it. Let me share my screen. Okay, so this should look familiar. This is the library's website, right? At the moment, we have the old catalog search box on the homepage, a way to search just what's on our website, and there's this new tab for the new catalog. So this would be one way to get access to the catalog. Another way is up on this link that says catalog. Alyssa, is it currently, it's to the old one still?
Yeah, it's still to the old one. In a couple of weeks, it will change.
Okay, so we'll just do a random search here to get us into the catalog.
You could also use the URL.
Yeah, and so you'll notice that it's search.icpl.org here up at the top. You could type that in to any web browser and you would come to the new catalog. All of the library staff have been typing search.icpl.org for the last few months so that we can practice it and make refinements. So hopefully that will seem comfortable to you too. So let me point out what we'll see on the homepage of the new catalog. Across the top, we've got links to ask us a question, to go back to the library website, sign up for a card, and log in. We'll come back to the login a little bit later, and Alyssa will show us all of the new account features. But here in the middle is a search box where we can do a search for a title, author, or subject. And there's an advanced option as well. But let me just show you what's down here. So we have sections of new materials broken up by groups. So new adult fiction, nonfiction, new kids books, etc. And below the new sections, we have staff lists in case you're interested in one of the topics we've pulled together, and a few featured activities. Here's the link for the interlibrary loan or purchase suggestions if we don't have something that you looked for. And here's that feedback link that I mentioned earlier. Let's come back up here. For the new items here on the homepage, you'll notice that it's only showing a selection of how many books? 12 books for each category. If you want more, you can click on this link and it'll take you to the full new section. If you haven't used this before, it's really nice because the book covers are so big and it's fun to browse. And then you can also limit it down on the side. The way to get straight to this is under Books and More and New. So you can either get there through the catalog or browse through the book section right now. Let's come back to the catalog page. Let's see. So any questions about the overall layout, or I will start showing you how searching works. I'll just make it clear that if I clicked on this book, I could get to that record and see about it. But let's just do some random searches. So if I like Louise Penny, I can do a search for her as the author. And here's what my eyes are going to catch as I look at my results. There's 136, so that's a lot of results, and I might want to narrow it down somehow. So I've got the option to sort by maybe the latest things that have come out, or if I'm starting from the very beginning with a new author to me, I might want to see their oldest books first. The added to ICPL option is about when it was added to the library. So sometimes we might add an older book, and if it's still new to you, you might be interested in seeing it. So that's an option. And then you can also sort the results in these different ways. I'm going to leave it on relevance because that's fine for me right now. So as I scroll down here, how can I tell if a book is, let's start with the format, if it's a book or an ebook, an audiobook, things like that. So as I look, I'm looking at this little icon and the word book. And hopefully if I scroll down enough, this one is a sound recording, and this image of the CD is also a signal that that's a book on CD. And large print is written here. I'm hoping I'll get to an ebook. Okay, let's go back to the top, and I'm going to choose ebooks so that you can compare the way that looks. And so here you'll see it's got the same book icon, the words ebook. And if I were to do the e-audio, let me show you how that looks. Here we go. So the words e-audio, it doesn't have a CD here because it's not on a CD. So you'll want to either get in the habit of looking at that section or changing the formats on the side to exactly what you're looking for. As I scroll down here for availability, I'm going to look at this section. So this green check mark means that it is currently available, or there's at least one copy available, and it's on the first floor. These are all available. This red X means that all of the in-house copies on the new shelf are checked out, but that there's maybe at least one copy available on the bookmobile, and that our express copies, which is a separate collection that is a shorter checkout and no renewals, that those are all checked out. If this is a little baffling and you want to dig in deeper, you can click on the title to go to that record, and it'll explain things a little bit more. So I can see that we have 17 copies, but they're all out in the library. There is just one on the bookmobile, and our 3 express copies are checked out. Sometimes you might even want to click this CL items. If this helps you find out when these books are due back to get a sense of whether you'll get it as soon as you want, or if it will be a long wait indeed. So we're hoping that the green check marks and the red X, and there's one more option. I should have anticipated which one I could do.
It will only show up on item records, so you'd have to look for a comic.
Gotcha. Okay, so instead of Louise Penny, Saga is a graphic novel series. And we'll see that there's an exclamation mark, and it's in sort of this yellowish color. That means that it's hard to tell whether we have a copy available or not. And so you'll want to click on the title again for that and see. And the reason it couldn't tell us from the start is that there's just too many details about the different volumes. So volume 1 is not available. Volume 2 is, we've got 1 copy available, etc. Another thing about the series, I was going to come back to those later, but now is a good time, is that if I'm going to place a hold on this, I have to already decide which volume I want. So let's say I want volume 1 because I want to start from the top. I'll come to place a hold here. And I'll log in with my card number. And it's going to give me this choice from a drop down for which volume I want. So for volume 1, it would make sense to choose the one that's due the soonest. This is sometimes a gamble though. It's the person who has it checked out until the 15th might bring it back faster. But to me, this is the most sensible option to put a hold on for volume 1. I choose my pickup location and I submit it. If I wanted volumes 1 through 3, I would have to do this process for each volume. But once you get the hang of it, it goes pretty fast. So I can get on hold for volume 2 as well, doing the same thing. Okay. Let's come back and do a title search now. So if I know I want the book Harlem Shuffle, one of the new features in the catalog is that it gives you suggested titles as you start typing. So if you like to save yourself a little bit of typing time, or if you're doing this on a mobile device where it's a little hard to type, then you might appreciate that new feature. It only does the suggested titles or the suggestions for titles, not for authors or subjects. And so I can click there and search. And here we go. 19 results, still kind of a lot, but let's scroll through these options. I have the ebook is all checked out with kind of a long waiting list. I've got the physical book or the print book is all checked out in all 3 places. If I want to know what the waiting list is like, I'll just click on the title again. And there's 28 people waiting, but we've got 11 plus 4, 15 copies. So it's not too terrible. And just come back to show you all the different formats again. So e-audio, large print, and I must have already skipped over ebook. Yes. So once again, I can do my limiting on the side. So I could just limit it to the physical books or the ebooks if that's what I want, and get my things that way. Let's go ahead and look at a specific item a little more closely. So as I'm on here, I've got similar items to the right that you might enjoy browsing through. I'm going to skip over the holdings. And here, this is the same kind of thing that was in the old catalog, but just as a reminder that you can click on these and find other books that have a similar subject or same genre, and keep going down. And then we have features from Novelist. So this is also in the old catalog, but if you didn't know about it, you might really appreciate it. So if you start from a book that you enjoy, you can find similar titles that they recommend, authors. You can use their story elements to find something interesting, or you can use this as a way of better understanding a book before you check it out. So if I come to this and hear that, oh, it's gritty and suspenseful, and I was looking for something not gritty or suspenseful, then that could help me realize more about what the book's about. Then it also takes you to the Goodread reviews in case you wanted to do that from all in the same spot, and a couple more features that you can use. I'm going to let Alyssa talk about saving to a list, right? Or am I going to talk about that? And then also the email feature when she goes in a little bit. But let's just do a topic now as well. So if I come back to the top here, I'm just interested in like going to Portugal. It's going to give me those suggestions, but I just want to search for that term and see everything that comes up. And so right now it's sorted by relevance. So this 2002 is not super new. I might want to search by the newest first. And so I'm going to get fiction books that are set in Portugal, and I'm going to get kids books that are set in Portugal, right? And maybe this is just incidentally mentions Portugal. So if really what I want is a book, I can make that limit on the side and let it sort those out. And then I can also choose what collection I'm thinking of. If you're just a casual catalog user, you may not be interested in this, but for anybody who knows the library a little bit better and knows what our sections are, this can be very powerful. So let's see them all. The majority of the books on Portugal are in adult nonfiction. So this is in order by how many hits there were for my search. And then fiction, children's, nonfiction, etc. So I could decide, oh, well, I wanted a mystery, and then I could choose that one. Or really, I wanted to see if I can find a travel guide. So I'm going to choose adult fiction or nonfiction. And you can see what I currently have filtered on the left there as well. And so since I have it in date order, I'm just going to go until I get to one that looks interesting. And I can come into the library and check it out from this call number. And if I'm not sure where that is, this will show me on a map of the library. So this is on the second floor, and it's highlighted in red where I should aim for when I get here. That's an upgrade from, I think, how the old catalog used to do it. It just.
Would you do that again, please, Stacy? How did you get to where it was?
Yeah, so it tells me it's on the second floor at the call number, and I can tell it to show me where on this link. And it'll pop up a new tab in my browser. And then you can tell this is where the stairs or the elevator are, and then I'll want to turn left and come down to this area. You're also, of course, if you didn't already know this, welcome to put a book that's available on hold, and then library staff will go out in the next hour or two and collect things and put them on the hold shelf for you. So if you don't want to find where it is, or if that's not part of what you wanted to do today, then we can take care of that part for you. Let's see. So we talked about how to tell what format something is, looking for the years just as a sense of whether a book is the newest one or not, and how to tell what's available. We looked at the filters on the side, but let me complete showing you what all of your options are. So the format we did, collections, and I could do more than one. Subjects might be of interest. That would be a fast way to narrow down to just the travel books, if that's what I was looking for. Genre might make more sense if I'm doing a fiction search, but I could also do that here. If you want to find it by language, you can do that. Author, I can't imagine why you would use that, but maybe if you had a very common fiction title and you wanted to quick narrow it down, you could do that. And then you can also do your years of publication if you had something very specific that you were going for. And if I set that, yeah, this is the next thing I wanted to show you. What happens if I search for something that the library doesn't have? So that's either by getting my filters down too specific, or if I do a search for just a bad title or word, I get no results. And so it could be that I should retry my search and fix my spelling or fix something about it, or I can do the interlibrary loan or suggest a purchase here. So this little result page is another one of the improvements for the new catalog. Let's see. Does everybody know the difference between this interlibrary loan and suggest a purchase, or should I also cover that quick? Anytime the library doesn't have something, we want to be able to get it for you. So we can't own everything, but we want you to be able to have access to everything. So if we don't own something, you can either ask that we borrow it from another library, which comes on interlibrary loan. It's at no cost to you. And it usually comes within a couple of weeks for you to use, and then we send it back. Or if something was created in the last year, then we can't get it on interlibrary loan yet, so you can ask us if we will purchase it for the library and someone will look into it for you. Okay, another thing to talk about that you might appreciate is that there are improved book covers. So now when you click on a book cover, it should pop up, oh, from here, it will pop up big. This was a little frustrating for us with the old catalog. And if you're trying to remember, did I already read that book? Or what's this little blurb that I can't quite see? Then you might appreciate being able to click and see the full cover now. And then the last thing I want to show you is series. So I don't know if this is part of a series. Let me search for a new book that's in a series. That should be enough to get me there, right? So if I know that there's the Murderbot Diaries series, I can do a search and I just want the physical books. And I know that this is one of the books in the series, but I'm not sure which number it is. When I come into the record, I scroll down right here in the series section of the description, it tells me that it's book 2. And then I also oftentimes can come down and Novelist will show me the series in its order with the covers to help me remember whether I've read it or not. And it also kind of conveniently is giving me a heads up about whether we have physical copies available for each one. Let's see. I think that might be it for my end, which I'm talking about browsing and searching. So before we move on, for a few extra things from Melissa, plus covering all of the account parts, were there any questions about that? And I'm looking at the chat. Okay, that's not a question. Anybody have anything? Okay. And I will stop my sharing and hand it over to Alyssa.
Yeah, so I will go ahead and start sharing now. All right, so we'll start back on the homepage. One of the first things that I wanted to point out, you might have already noticed it at the bottom of the screen when Stacy was down here before, but one of the new features of the new catalog is we also have some language options. So if you or someone you knew was native in a different language that was not English, there are now some translation options that, you know, if somebody spoke French, they could click on this and then oh, it looks a little bit off. I'm going to have to fix that. But they could click the translate option, and then when they search the catalog, it's going to do some translations. This isn't 100%, so you can see like some of the things were translated and not others. So we're still working on getting full translations of everything. But the majority of the page, other than like the information that's like about the books or whatnot, are not going to be translated, but kind of like the contextual information would be. So that's another feature that has been added. One of the other things that we added was also a better experience with ebooks. So if I look for an ebook to check out, and you may, you know, if you use Libby, you can still check out items from our catalog and then they'll go to Libby automatically. But if you're someone who, you know, only reads on your computer, you can check out ebooks and other digital content directly through the catalog and not have to go to Overdrive's website at all. So that's really nice. So this is just an example of, I found an ebook here that I want to borrow. If I click on this borrow through Overdrive, it'll give us a pop-up saying these are the download formats that you can read from. And so the EPUB is if you use, if you're reading on your computer with the Adobe Digital Editions, or if you use like a Nook, that's the format that you would need. The Kindle book is for if you have a Kindle and you read through, you know, something that's Amazon, like a Kindle Fire. And then there's also the Overdrive Read option, which is you just read in the browser, so you wouldn't, you know, you wouldn't need any other sort of device or anything to read that material. So we're going to go ahead and say borrow on this book. And so once I've borrowed it, then you can see it tells me this is when I have it checked out until, and now these download options have become links. And so I could click this one, it'll download a file, an EPUB file for me to use on my computer. The Kindle book takes me to Amazon's site where, you know, I would be able to transfer it to my Kindle, or if I click this Overdrive Read option, it's going to open up a new tab and it's going to let me just start reading that book directly here. So like I said, you don't have to go to Overdrive site at all if you don't want to. You know, you could read any ebooks or listen to an audiobook just in your browser directly from the catalog. So I'll go ahead and close this. So we still have this checked out. And so now you'll see this page is reloaded. And so now I can see that there's a little note that says that I have this item checked out, and it reminds me this is when it's due. And then you'll notice that these buttons up here also changed over. So now I get this button that says download the content. So if I, you know, accidentally close that pop-up that was there before, I can go back and get those links here. And then there's also a button here to return this title. And I could click on this to return it, and it'll ask you, are you sure? And then if you do want to return it, you can just click that button and it'll return that item. So that's a little bit about ebooks. Next thing is looking for, if you've ever wanted to see what the library has on order, so things that are coming soon to our collection. There's a couple of ways to find it. My favorite way to find on order items is to actually do an empty search, which is new. You didn't used to be able to do this, but if you just if you hit the search button without anything in the search terms box, you're going to get it's going to return every single thing that is in our collection. And so you'll notice this is quite a large number. But what we can do is under the collection options is we can click on more. And usually I filter by alphabetical so that I know exactly where it's going to be. So now we have on order options. So there's adult on order. There is I scrolled past it, children's on order. And then down at the bottom, we actually have to click more to get to see it. But there's also a young adult on order option. So let's say that's the one I wanted. I can click on this, and this will show me everything that is on order for young adults. And so those are the three collections that you can look for to find anything that is coming to the library. And you'll notice there's no location information under these items either. So that's an indicator that the item is on order. So if you remember back when we did a search before, maybe I'll add some fiction items back in here so we can see. So normally it would show us where that item is located, but with on order items, it's just empty under there. And so that's saying this item isn't here yet. And so that's an indicator, or can be an indicator that it's coming soon. So that is on order items. Another thing you might be used to doing is searching call numbers. And so this is something that you'll want to go to the advanced search for. And there is an option here. So you would change it away from keywords and change it to call number. So if you're used to looking for, let's see, something like, movies, we have call number movies. You could type in movie here and it would search for, or no, it's not movie. Maybe it's DVD. Let me
DVD/movie/comedy.
Right, yes, thank you. So you could do something like this. Search that, nope. I should try this. Oh, it's because my filters are still there. It's trying to search the fiction section, which I don't want anymore. Okay, let's try this again. Nope, it still had young adult. There we go. Okay, see, if you ever run into that, this is a good demonstration. You might have filters that are sticking around that you don't want. But anyway, so once I got rid of those filters that were over on the side, then it's going to show us, you know, what fits this call number. And so this is actually a good example too, because the first one that came up is actually a withdrawn item. And you can see that status right here. And so just a quick note about withdrawn items. Withdrawn items, we remove those quarterly. So it's not going to be in there forever, but just in terms of like how our processing works, that's why you'll see something that's withdrawn. They're not always, that we don't remove them like right away. They stick around in case one of our catalogers wants to reorder it. But anyway, so you can search call numbers using the advanced search. So that would be what you might want to use this page for. And you can also do, say, you know, a nonfiction section that you always like to look at. So if I wanted to search, say the 700s, I could just do a call number search for 7 and then with an asterisk. Or if I knew I wanted to search like the 740s, I could do a 74 asterisk. And so that asterisk is just, it's called a wildcard, if you're familiar with that, but it just tells me that, you know, I want something with any sort of ending behind that. And so I could search the 740s for, you know, if that's the section that I was interested in looking at, and you could just get a list of just those. So that's some advanced searching. Alrighty, I think that is it for the search. Yes,
Before you move on, there are a couple of chat questions. So one of them is, what's the difference between an ebook, e-audio, and audiobook?
Yeah, so mainly, so the ebook is going to be a digital book that you can read, and there are several different ways that you can read an ebook, and I kind of talked about those a little bit. So like if you have a Kindle or a Nook, those are some ways that you can read an ebook, but you can read them on your computer as well. So it's just kind of like the alternative for the hard copy version. And then, so the difference between an audiobook and an e-audio, I mean, an e-audio is an audiobook, but it's in a digital format. That's what the E stands for electronic. And so when we say e-audio, those are mainly referring to Overdrive audiobooks. And so those are ones that you can, just like an ebook, you can download it to a device, or you can, you know, listen to it in the browser. And then the audiobook is like kind of like a more general term, but we use it for like the CD, like books on CD sort of thing. And so that's where you'll see audiobook without the E part. And then it looks like the other question, what is a call number? So call numbers are what the library uses to say what a location is for a book or a DVD or whatever. So that's just a way that we've got materials organized. And so if it's fiction, it's going to be, the call number is going to be the author's last name. If it's in nonfiction, it's going to have a number, which is a part of the Dewey Decimal System, which doesn't make sense to most people, and that's okay. But, we can, if you wanted to learn more about it, we could, talk more afterwards. But so column number, you can just think of it as the location of where that book is.
And then the follow-up for the Overdrive part is, how do I order an audiobook through the catalog, but then get it to Libby?
Yeah, so that one, it automatically will go to Libby. So Libby is tied to your account. And so is the catalog. So when you log into the catalog with your library account information, it's going to go to your Overdrive account. And so then the next time you open Libby, it's going to automatically get pulled into your Libby app because that Libby app is already set up with your account. So, if you're looking in the catalog and you notice an ebook or an e-audio that you want to check out, but you want to read it in Libby, you can check it out here. And then next time you go to Libby, that item will be on your shelf there. So it's
when Alyssa showed us checking it out, there was a pop-up window, and then she was choosing between those 3 formats. I think instead of clicking on one of those formats, there was just an OK at the
close,
bottom right, or close. And so you don't have to click on the formats. You could just close it out and know that it has been checked out on your Libby account.
Yep. Yes. Good question.
Other
all right.
questions before we talk about accounts? And of course, you can always ask us later in person or by email, anything that you need to know.
Yes. Yeah, so now we're going to go and look at the account, which has a lot of improvements over our old catalog, and I'm really excited about them. So I hope that you're also excited about them. The way that you would get to your account is you would click on this My Account link up in the upper right-hand corner, and that's after you've logged in. If you are not logged in, you log in first, and then that link will appear. But so the default page that it takes us to is the borrowed items page. And so the borrowed items shows us, what do we have borrowed from the library? And so we'll just look at a couple of things here. So you'll notice some color coding going on under these items. So the red is for if a book is overdue, it'll show in red. So we can see that this book was due back yesterday. So it's got a red overdue tag. This one in gold is an item that is due soon. So it's due in a couple of days. And so it's like, it's gold to indicate that that's something that you'll want to think about returning soon. And then if it's neither of those, then it's going to be in this default blue. So that's just something that, is due back at a later date. And so then if there is something that you have on your account that you would like to try to renew, just a quick reminder that the library now does automatic renewals. And so for most items, if you haven't already reached the renewal limit, it'll automatically renew that for, however long that material is normally checked out for. A couple instances where it might not get renewed are things like if somebody is waiting for that item, or just if that item is not able to be renewed based on the type of item, that sort of thing. So anyway, so
for the top one, I put another hold on it. So I know that someone is waiting. Do you want to show us what it looks like?
Yes. Yeah, I was just going to try to renew some of these. So Stacy says that she actually has this on hold, and maybe not because it let us renew it. Anyway, so this is what it looks like when it's successful. So it'll say this item has been renewed, and then tell you the new due date. So now we can see that due date has turned back into a blue, saying that it's not due for a while. So that is the successful message. Do you want to try to place a hold on?
Maybe it was the second one instead. Try to renew that one.
Okay,
That's
so yes, this is the one that Stacy has on hold. So now when I hit the renew button next to it, it told us that it was not able to be renewed and why, which is it's on hold for someone else. So these are the two examples of the renew messages that you'll get. And then actually, I'm going to go ahead and refresh this page. Because now we can see, once we've refreshed this page, also there will be a note underneath if an item has been renewed. So we can see that this has now been renewed one time. And I think for the majority of items, you can renew them up to 2 times. There are special items that you can not renew any times, and some items that can only be renewed once. But if it says renewed twice over here, then you know that it can't be renewed anymore. Anyway, so that is renewing. And there's a renew all items button. So if you have, all your items that you're wanting to try to renew, you could also hit that instead of doing each one individually. So that's the borrowed items page. Next is the holds page. So this is another nice upgrade that I was excited for. But so you'll notice there was this little bell icon next to the holds menu item. And so this indicates that we have things that are available for pickup. So that's what this gray box up here at the top is indicating, is that these are the items that we have that are ready for pickup right now. And it'll tell you this is the date that you can pick that item up through. And then anything that is not yet ready is going to be down below. And so we can see, these are the 2 books that we placed on hold a little bit earlier, and then there were a couple other ones in here. And for these, the ones that are not yet available, it'll tell you, what is your position waiting in line. So we're 28 of 28 people waiting for this Harlem Shuffle book. Another thing that you'll notice is there's a little icon next to this one, which is, it's a snowflake, and that's to indicate that this item has been frozen. And so frozen is a status for holds, which just says that item, that I don't want this item until I've unfrozen it. And so pretty much it just freezes your place in line. So you'll continue going up in the position tracker, but once you get to number 1, you're not going to get that item until you've unfrozen it. And so, if you're going on vacation, this is a useful tip for, you can freeze your items so you don't get any of those holds and you don't lose them before you would get back. So you can freeze items, and you do that using the button next to it. So this is an example of one that we haven't frozen yet, so I could hit the freeze button and it'll say hold has been frozen. And then if I wanted to unfreeze it, I can just click that freeze button next to it, and it'll be unfrozen again. One reason that you might not be able to freeze an item is that this one was actually on the shelf. So if something tells you that it can't be frozen, that is the reason, most likely, is that you can't freeze things that are available now. And that's just a limitation of our like the system in the back end. So that is the holds page. And then of course you can also, I forgot to say, but you can also cancel holds from this page as well. So you could click that cancel button if you no longer want that item. Next on the list is the fines. And so currently we're fine free, so you shouldn't be accumulating fines. But if you had any, or if you had, like, say, a lost item that you needed to pay for, that would show up on your account here. And you can only pay for fines that are over $1. So if I tried to pay for just this 50-cent one, it'll tell me you have to pay more than $1. So I could check both of these, and then it would let me pay those. And so it works like anything else that you would pay for online, where you would proceed to check out, and it would take you to a PayPal account where you would just put in the information for it. So that is the fines page. Another page in your account is the interlibrary loans page, which is also an exciting addition. So this was not something that we could show in the old catalog, but now we can. So if you are an interlibrary loan user, anything that you have requested through interlibrary loan will now show online in your online account. And so there's 3 different items here, which is the limit. You can request up to 3 things at a time. And each of these are in a different status. So this top one says not received. So that means that it hasn't yet reached the library from the lending library. And so I still have the option to cancel it at this point. And then the next one here is an item that has been returned. I've already returned it to the library and it's headed back to its lending library. And so you'll notice I don't have any buttons over here because there's nothing to do with it at that point. Items that have been returned will eventually come off of your account. And it's just dependent on when the interlibrary loan department deletes them out of our system. So they have a process that they go through. And so then eventually that will go away from my account. And then this last one is one that I currently have checked out. So it gives me the date of when it was received at the library, and then it tells me my due date for that item. And so there's an extra button here that says request renewal. And so it's not often that we can renew interlibrary loans, but we can always ask. We can ask the lending library if they would be willing to let us have it for a little bit longer. And so if you click on this, it'll send a notification to the interlibrary loan department, and they will get in touch with the lending library and then let you know if they say yes or no to that renewal. So it's not a guarantee, but it doesn't hurt to ask if you would like a little bit more time with it. So that is the interlibrary loans page. And then coming back to the ebook information, we have the Overdrive shelf in your account pages as well. So you can just see here that this was a book that was already checked out on this account. And so it expires on this date. And then those action buttons that we had from before are also here. We can, return it if we're done with it or download it from here. And so if you are a Libby user, you probably won't use this page. You can go to Libby and, see this exact same information there. But if you wanted to, just use our catalog for ebook usage, you would be able to come here. And then this is an example of one that we have on hold. And there's a button down here for edits that we could do to this hold. So we could cancel it. We could edit the email notification if we want to change the email when it's ready. And then there's also a suspend hold option. And so if it's something that, again, it's kind of like freezing holds. If it's something where, you're going on vacation and you don't want anything to come in during a certain time, you could suspend it. And so just to see what that looks like, I can say suspend hold, and it'll ask me how long would I like to suspend it. And so maybe I would say, I'm going on vacation for 2 weeks. So maybe I'll say deliver after 14 days. And so then I can say that, and then it'll tell me this was suspended for 14 days. And so now once this page reloads, it'll tell me that the suspension, and it is 14 days. It just tells you that the 14 days has already started. That's why it says 13. Okay, so that is the Overdrive shelf. And then next one down is borrowing history, which is another exciting change that you now can see covers for things that you have downloaded. So if you're like me and you can't remember the title, but you remember kind of what the cover looked like, you can see that really easily in the browsing history. And there's a couple of different view options. So I really like the grid option. So I can just click on this and it'll give me just the covers instead of having the cover and title information. And there is a paging option as well. So, I'll see a dozen at a time, but then I can page back and see more. And so the borrowing history is something, just as a note, if you don't have it turned on yet, you'll want to turn it on if you want to see that. And you would do that by toggling this. If it's turned off, then it'll be, this dot is like a switch. And so it'll be over on the left-hand side and it'll be grayed out. And so we can't go back and see any history from before you turn it on. So that's why if you are interested in seeing borrowing history, you have to turn it on before we'll start tracking that information. And once you start tracking that information, you'll also notice there's links under all of these things. So if I wanted to remove something from my history, I could always get rid of it as well. And there's a delete all items button up here as well if you're just like looking to clear out your history. So that is the borrowing history. Yes.
Alyssa, if someone had turned on the borrowing history in the old catalog, is it automatically turned on in the new one?
Yes, that's a good question. Yes, borrowing history from the old catalog, it's all transferred over. So if you have borrowing history in the old catalog, it'll be here in the new one, and it'll already be turned on. And so it's just if you haven't ever turned it on that you would want to do that.
And then another follow-up, do my interlibrary loans and or ebooks show up in the borrowing history?
They do not. And there's a note about digital items not being included in this. So if you check out anything through Overdrive or through any of our other online resources, those will not show up here, and neither will interlibrary loans. This is strictly for any of the physical items in our collection. So that is borrowing history. The next one is save searches. And so if you have been around a while, and if you remember the old catalog, there was a thing called preferred searches. And so for preferred searches, you could get an email alert whenever new things were added under a specific title or a specific search term, basically. And so we've brought that back with the new catalog, and now they're called saved searches. And so you can see here on this page that we have two saved searches. And so we have this vegetarian cookbook saved search, and then an N.K. Jemisin saved search. And so both of these, it'll show us over here on the right whether or not the alert is turned on for those. And so this first one, there's not an alert, and the second one there is. And so the alert is an email notification that goes out once a week and tells you anything that was added to our collection that fits your search within the last week. So if there was a vegetarian cookbook added in the last week, if I had this alert turned on, I would see that item. And so that's kind of how it works. It's also useful if there is a search that you do often, you know, say even though I don't necessarily want an alert for the vegetarian cookbooks, maybe I like to browse them. I can just click this link and it will take me to that search. And so then I don't have to, you know, type in the same thing over again and set my filters. I can, you know, go into my saved searches and get to it quickly there. And you'll also notice here down below the saved searches are my recent searches. So if there is something that you searched recently that you would like to save, you could just go in here and then click save next to it, and that will bring it up to my saved searches section. The alert is by default off, but you could turn it on by clicking this button here, and then it'll turn the alert on. So now next time the alert goes out, which currently I think it's scheduled for Saturday nights, if there's anything that has been added to our collection in that area, I'll be notified for it. So that is recent searches and save searches. The other way that you can save a search, so let's say that I do, if I am just looking at knitting books, or if I type in anything, down at the bottom of this search page. So if I scroll all the way to the end of the list, once we get there, there is a save search option here as well. So if you're on the search results page, I could click this save search directly from here. And then now if I go back to my account under saved searches, it will be there. Okay. We're running out of time a little bit. The last one is maybe the most important. But so there is also the ability to create lists in the new catalog. And so let's go back to my knitting search. If I wanted to save something, you'll notice on this page, I already had a list called knitting. I could save something by using that save to list over on the side. And so it'll pop up and it'll ask me which list. And I only have one. So that's the one I'm going to save it to. You could add a tag or a note if you would like, but then you can save it. And so then that item will be saved to that list. So if I go to that list, I can see that this is the item that I just added. And so you can create new lists in the new catalog. You can also, if you had lists in the old catalog, you can also bring those over. And so the way that you do that, there's instructions on how it works here on the My List page. So you'll notice down here at the bottom, there's a note that says, have listed to transfer from the old catalog, learn how to duplicate them. So I'm going to click on this, and this tells me exactly how it works. And so what I need to do is there is a bookmarklet here that I need to drag up to my bookmarks bar. If you've never done that before, I can click and drag, and so I can put it up here and it'll show up here in my bookmarks. So this is something you can only do on your desktop or on a desktop. If you need help with this, you can always come into the library and we would be more than happy to help you work on transferring lists from the old catalog. But so that's the first step. And so then the second step is that we're going to log into the old catalog, which is called Cat Pro. And so then I'm going to open up a new tab with that. And then I'm going to log in with my same library card number and password. And it looks like this is the one I want. So we'll log in with that. And so then from here, I'm going to navigate to my account page and then find my lists. And so then in here, I can, I only have one list here, but so I would click on that list and I would bring up the list of items so that I can see each of those titles. And so then once I'm here, I'm going to click this list mover bookmarklet up here in my bookmarks bar. And then it's going to tell me whether or not it worked. So I got a pop-up here that says your list has been converted, which is a good sign. That means that our moving worked. And so now I can verify that by switching back over to my, switching back over to the new catalog. And now if I refresh this page, I should have a second list here. I do. It's called Birding, which is the same as what the list was called in the old catalog. And I can verify it has 20 items and my old list had 20 items. So if you had lists in the old system, that's how you can move them. So this is one thing that lists don't move automatically. Lists do have to be moved over in this kind of like manual format, but we have this tool that makes it a little bit easier so you're not having to do each of those items individually and adding them to a new list. But so yeah, that is the list mover and how that works. And it's a little bit complicated. That's why we have the instructions, but you can always go back and check it.
Why are you doing that?
And I don't know that, I think that's pretty much it. Though you can also create a list or this all saved items will show you everything that you have saved on your account. So it's kind of like a favorites list, but it'll show you all the things. And then this last one in your account menu just shows you an overview of your account information. It's one way you can look to see when your card expires. If you would like to set your preferred library to not the downtown library, say you're a Bookmobile user, you could click that and save that. Or if you wanted to change your password, you can also do that. So that was a lot all at once at the end there, but happy to stick around and answer any questions if people have them. So yeah.
This is helpful in terms of books and whatnot. I understand that you also you have access to training videos, tutorials, or whatever through the library. How do you get access to information about what's available and those kinds of things?
So is that the LinkedIn Learning that you're thinking of?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, so maybe Alyssa can show us from the library's website where you would find that.
So you have to go back to the regular library list. Okay.
Yes, so, and there's a link to our website up here in the header of the catalog. But so from here, there's a couple different ways that you can find it. You can scroll down, it's on our homepage, down in this digital library section. It's under Explore. So LinkedIn Learning, there's a link here to that. And then you can also find it on our digital library page, which is under Books and More. And there's the digital library page. And so
Okay.
both of these will have links to the LinkedIn Learning. Yeah.
It is tricky to understand the distinction between some of the online things that we pay for and then the ebooks and e-audio books. So it makes sense to the librarians because we know where those different options are coming from. So if you ever have a question about that, don't be afraid to ask because yeah, in the effort to give you lots of materials to look at, it is a little overwhelming at times. What other questions are there for Alyssa, who is our catalog expert? And I'll go ahead and stop the recording now.